we are live. Hello, everybody. Thanks again for watching this little interview with my friend Zach Busch. If you don't know him, neither do I. So we're about to get to know each other, and hopefully something that you may need from him, or maybe something that piques your interest. Feel free to reach out to him, or if you're too intimidated by him, like I am right now, after this you shouldn't be, but you'll still have me to make that connection. So, with no further ado, thank you, Zach, for joining us and just getting to know each other a little bit better. And take it away, my man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. We've been messaging. I think we messaged before, like a while back, a little bit back and forth.
Hmm.
And recently, I said I was like, hey, like I'm looking to get on some more podcasts. Tell my story, give my side of things. Good, bad, all that stuff. So
Hmm.
we've been messing for a little bit, and finally happy to be on here and have a discussion with you and learn a little about you and tell a little bit about my story. So yeah, so I am in the Philadelphia area. I live about an hour north of Philly, so not in the city itself.
Hmm.
I have always lived in the suburbs. I actually am about 15 minutes from where I grew up, but went to high school. I played soccer, swam. Then I went to Drexel in the city for
Hmm.
5 years, studied mechanical engineering. I was always like math and science, and kind of just gravitated towards that. I didn't really know what to do, but I was like, hey, it probably pays pretty well. It seems like a pretty safe job. But, I like math and science, so like let's just do it. I didn't really have like a clear set like this is what I want to get done. I just knew like the typical go to high school, go to college, get a job, family, all that stuff. So went to
Nice.
Drexel for 5 years. Which is funny because I never thought I was going to be a person that lived in the city. The only reason I ended up there was like my mom was like, you should just go and like career or college fair at the high school was like, you should just go talk to them. I could see what it's about. And
Right.
so I went and talked to them, visited it, loved it. A buddy of mine that I played soccer with was going there too. So cool, let's room. So spent 5 years there. It's a 5-year program because they include 3 6-month internships as part of that. Like that's part of the curriculum.
Right.
Was amazing because the first 2 jobs that I had, I hated. Did not like any part of them because
Hmm.
mechanical engineering has a wide range of what you can do, which is why I liked it. I didn't wasn't felt like I wasn't honed in on like pigeoning myself into one type of engineering.
Right.
So it was nice to get that experience to learn what I didn't like because my third internship was where I'm currently working now. So that helped me get that job. So that's why it's 5 years, which is again great. And so started just working. I was working W-2, and it was fine. I was like that was just the path that I thought I had to go down, right? It was just
Right.
like that's what my parents did, that's what all my friends were doing. So I was like, well, let's just do that. Like cool. Lived at home for a couple years, saved some money, ended up buying my own personal house, which I wish knowing what I know now, I'd done that a little differently. Right?
Right.
House hacking and taking advantage of like not having a wife and a kid and all that stuff.
Right.
Um, so I went through probably, let's say I've been there for 9 years, so 5 6 years where I was just like working. I was like, all right, I'm going to be at this job for 30 40 years, and then maybe I'll retire and get to hang out and have a good time. And was getting the Sunday night like, oh, I don't want to go to work, I'm dreading going in, like it's just another week, another grind, and just the monotony of it over and over again. And so I stumbled in like 2019. I stumbled across the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early, like that subreddit.
Okay.
And that just goes into they're really like save everything, invest everything in the stock market, like don't spend anything, like save your way to wealth, which is like, okay, now I don't have to work 30 years, maybe it's 20 years, and then I can live off of the dividends or whatever. It's like,
Right.
that sounds great, but I'm not willing to sacrifice absolutely everything now for the potential down the road, right? Because there's
Right.
nothing stopping you from getting hit by a bus tomorrow or next week or next year. So it's like not I'm not saying I live extravagantly because I certainly don't, but like not taking away absolutely everything, like being able to go on those vacations and driving at least a reliable car. It doesn't have to be brand new, but I didn't want to sacrifice everything now. But that financial independence group led me to real estate. It led me to Bigger Pockets, which led me to Pace Morby, which I was learning a ton, but not doing anything. So I probably
Mhm.
spent a year watching YouTubes, listening to podcasts, reading books on real estate,
Mm-hmm.
but just getting overwhelmed with all of the information that's there.
Got it.
And so then I heard Pace on one of the Bigger Pockets episodes. This was probably the end of 21,
Mm-hmm.
and heard what he was building in his community. I was like, great. That sounds like something exactly what I need, right? I
Right.
can jump in, cause some chaos, and have a group of people that I know are in real estate and looking to help each other. And he also had the Zero to Hero program, which was 3-hour Zooms. I was like 15 3-hour Zooms of how to build a wholesaling
Mm-hmm.
company from nothing. So I was like, perfect. Like I have been in school forever. Like I work at, like I can follow step by step. I'll just blindly follow that and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. So joined that community. I think I listened to his episode in like September, October. Joined probably November, December by the time I actually went into it. So jumped right into wholesaling. I mean, started that in January and was harder than they made it seem in all the videos. For sure. I know right? You're in the direct to
Yes.
seller, direct to agent, and I'm not. I didn't like negotiating with sellers. I didn't like calling sellers. I wasn't doing the prospecting, so I didn't have to worry about cold calling, which was nice. Uh,
Right.
but went through the process. Closed 3 deals in my first, I don't know, 9 months.
Nice.
So like it wasn't a ton. I was still working my W-2, but
Mm-hmm.
it was something. It was like, okay, the checks came in. It covered a little bit more than the marketing expenses for that time between the VA and all the extra
Yes.
CRMs and everything. But it was like proof of concept. It was like, okay, I can make money outside of my job.
Mm-hmm.
And that was nice. And I learned a ton through those, but it was hard work.
Right.
Um, and so I eventually, after a year of doing it, I got burned out and like took a break, like took a step back and was like, let me reevaluate. Let me figure out what I'm enjoying, what I'm not enjoying, what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up connecting with Jesse Stanton and Chris James. They were like just had partnered together and they're like, hey, we just want to meet as many people as possible. Hopped on a call with them, told them what I'd done. They're like, why don't you start doing it again or whatever? And so basically mini coaching calls with them, and they like pushed me into getting back into it. Not pushed me, but like helped motivate me and helped kind of give me deadlines and kind of get me going. And so I restarted and got a deal within like the first month of like
Wow.
restarting things. Yeah, it was just like right time. Like the person was ready to go. Their asking price was actually like perfect.
Yeah.
So I ended up wholesaling it. I wish, looking back on it, knowing what I know now, I wish I would have kept it. But that's a whole different story. I can go into that another time.
Right.
So was continuing going through that. Ended up meeting somebody else in my area from Sub 2 and started working with him. He was doing a lot of calling. He liked talking to sellers more than I did. And I, with work, I was limited on how many hours I could talk to people anyway. So I did
Yeah.
a lot of the back end stuff, like making sure lists are pulled and skip trace and
Mm-hmm.
uploaded and doing training with our VA. So I was like behind the scenes. Like that's where I felt like I thrived a little bit more.
Right.
And I wish I had learned like working my superpowers more and also like partnering with people. I spent so much time just like in the grind that I wasn't connecting with people like you and like my partner then and even Jesse and Chris, right? As soon as I started connecting with these other people, I
Mm-hmm.
started to see real results, real traction. And even if things weren't going great, it was more fun because somebody else was along me being like, well, this sucks. Like, let's just keep going, I guess.
Right.
So did that I worked with him. His name's Caleb. We worked together for probably about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Closed another, I don't know, 5 or 6 deals along that way. So like not a ton of volume, but we were both still working W-2s and all that. So it wasn't like we didn't build it like a business. It was just like a side hustle. So it was doing the job, and we were learning so much.
Right.
And so we ended up buying a property together. We got it at a great price. We bird it, so we bought it for 45, put 40 into it, refied out for like 160.
Nice.
So after like fees and closing costs and all that stuff, we pocketed like 30K each, I think.
Nice.
So it was like we were like, okay, like at least me, it was like that was my first buy and hold. And
Yeah.
that's really why I got into real estate, was to buy properties for the cash flow, for the long term, appreciation, pay down, all the stuff that comes with it. So started switching over my mindset a little bit and jumped into Jesse Stanton's business coaching program. And the Growth Co. and started learning how to systematize things, how to hire, how to get social media going to for me to be a CEO and to focus on buy and holds. So that's what I've been focusing on. It's been 10 months since I've started the program. I was still
Mhm.
wholesaling when I started, and the
Right.
original intent was to kind of build up, like systematize the wholesaling business.
Right.
And most of the way through that program, I was like, he was like, why'd you get into real estate? I said, to buy properties. He's like, why aren't you doing that then? And I was like, I don't really
Dude.
know. So I've been doing that, and just trying to build out the brand. Like I have my own podcast now, just to get visibility out there. I have an operations manager who does a lot of the back end organization stuff. Like I'm organized, but like he's on a whole nother level on like keeping track of KPIs and
Yeah.
wholesalers. And I had to teach him underwriting, but he picked that up really quick. So it's helped free up time. I'm still working my W-2, but it's helped free up time to kind of build the business up more and kind of be
Mm.
more of a front person, which I never really thought I was until like the last 6 months, like just kind of putting myself out there and getting a little
Right.
uncomfortable doing this stuff. So yeah, so we're still looking. I just hired him like a month ago, so we're still kind of figuring things out, but just looking right now to buy some creative deals. We're looking at opening up specific markets for cash deals, but long-term rental break even. Ideally, we go like pad split or midterm rentals. So just been navigating all of that. It's been a journey. I've learned a ton. It certainly has not been easy through some of the deals that we've done, the stress of rehab, and just working
Mhm.
with sellers and dealing with closings. So that's my background, from engineering to doing real estate, and then I do some nutrition coaching and CrossFit coaching on the side. But that's something I've been trying to back off a little bit more to focus on the real estate, which is going to really make me the real money. So then I can quit my job and focus more on the stuff that I actually like, which is like the fitness health side.
Gotcha, Zach. Man, that sounds interesting. And the key, one of the phrases I kept hearing, I love that you mentioned, is like, if I knew then what I know now. And it goes back to a lot of people that, maybe like me, that just went out like full faith, leap of faith, and not have worry about my job. Even though if I knew then what I knew now, I can, when the interest rates are low, just refi out, take that equity out, and then boom, have a little bit of cushion. But we are where we are because I guess at the end of the day, it is like I say, I like to mention the big man upstairs. He has us in the palm of his hand at all times, and it just appreciating it and learning. Like I was telling Nathaniel yesterday about this book lately I've been reading, The Gap in the Gain. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I will never get to where Jesse's at, or Zach, or Pace. Everybody has their own race. I should be happy where I'm at now. But I love that you mentioned like going back, like, oh man, now I know this. I should have done this way. But no, I just appreciate where I'm at and just love the journey. And I got so much more to go. And you've done so much in a little bit of time, to where I'm pretty sure the people that are listening that I have met, that, George, I like what you're doing, but man, I got a job, I got a family, I got this. Where do you see me at? Like, bro, you just gotta love it, man. You gotta be some type of crazy kid, as I like to say. And a couple of the events I was able to speak in front of people, which it goes back to getting uncomfortable and just going for it. It is being to share that, hey, we're some type of crazy, because some of us only have our 9 to 5, stop working for the man for 40 and work for ourselves for 80. And but I love that you mentioned that obviously you did it by yourself, but you realize you can only grow so much. So it goes back to kind of sharing the what we were talking about before we started recording this, is knowing that I'm there, I'm getting a couple deals, I'll get a wholesale deal, I'll get that little water right above my mouth and breathe. 2 months is coming, like, oh, here goes another deal. And it's like, how can I, like you're talking about, systemize it to where, how can I start hiring a team, but also learn that what are my superpowers? I kind of consider myself like a soft closer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at asking questions. Like a lot of people, George, how do you ask about money? Like, well, what, they're selling for a reason. Ask them. Are they trying to buy their wife some new boobs? Are they trying to get some calf implants? What is their goal with selling this property? And just opening them up more. And the same thing when you're hiring people, it's like, bro, me and Zach, we fell for it too. We seen Pace all relaxed, like, yeah, if you do this, we can make it work. Like, but we don't realize how many steps not
Mm-hmm.
only he has done, even though he has done it himself, but actually hiring out. and learning how to be a team leader and knowing what your superpowers are. And even though you may be the better closer or the better integrator, it's letting other people do their job and setting those systems in place.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, the you see somebody on social media, especially where they're posting like you don't see the thousands of hours that they've put in to get to where they're like, wow, they're so smooth and there's like calm and collect. Like I know watching Pace like talking through like all those seller calls, like wow, like he is just like this is easy, like this is not that hard. And that was part of the problem was like going through that zero to hero program was like you're watching them on the seller calls and it's like he's just killing it. Like that's such an easy conversation. And then you get on there, the first one, I'm sweating, like nervous. I don't know. It was horrible phone call. I didn't ask any of the right questions. I was on the phone for like probably 45 seconds. Like it was super quick. And
Uh,
it took a while even then. I'm by no means was I any good, but it took time, not only just getting on the calls, but then like, all right, I need to re-listen to the calls. I need to learn more. I need to listen to other people's calls, go on daily dials. So it's like you don't see all that back work. You just see the end result of where people are at. And that's what you compare yourself to, not
yes,
the me from, if I do that for 1,000 hours, like, yeah, I'll probably be just as good as that.
true.
And I think that's super important that you highlighted that is that it's like you don't see all of the work, right? That picture of the iceberg where it's like the little tip, it's like success and achievement, and on the bottom it's like it's like doubt, consistency, all the other work that you have to put under the water that nobody sees, and that's the hard part of social media now, but of things in general.
Yeah, God is Zack, and it is like saying being able to be because a lot of people do, and I have heard this too. A lot of some people have told me, George, I kind of left Instagram alone because I see all the glory, and so that messes with my head because it kind of questions where I'm at. But then I think about the book of the gap in the game. Well, my journey is my journey, and what I try to do, I do try to share the bad part about it. Like, yes, I had this property on the contract of probate, but because what I looked up the tax documents, and I found out that this lady actually lost his property back in December.
Mm,
And she was under the impression that we were going to do business together. And I had
mm,
to deliver the bad news that no, Miss Seller, actually, the mortgage company was trying to reach out to you. And since you never reached out back to them, they took over the property. Now they hired a real estate agent to list it, and
mm,
now I can't do anything. And like, oh man. And like I said, that's a story, but that's what happens. That's why it's so important to ask these questions and just kind of like I like to with Jeff Smith here in Houston. I like the analogy, like the doctor analogy, or just uncovering that onion. What about this foreclosure is bothering you the most, or what are you trying to get to? What about this probate? Is where are you trying to go? What is your destination with this situation, kind of thing?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
and like you said, enjoying the process, right? Like that's that's the biggest thing is you got to have fun with it. It's hard, it's stressful. The
Right.
situations, especially dealing directly with sellers, like they're tough situations, so they're hard to work through. But you got to enjoy it as much as you can because you can set a goal of closing on one property a month or netting 10 grand a month in cash flow, but I found that anytime you set those goals, you get there, and yeah, it's great, but it's great for like 30 seconds, and then you're like, all
Right.
right, what's the next one? Where are we moving to next? Right? I mean, it happens all the time, and you either forget to enjoy the journey or forget to look back and be like, wow, look at where I came from, which is the whole premise of the gap in the game. And I love that book because of that, because it
Mhm.
reminds you, hey, like even just looking back to last week, like look at how much of a different person you are, how you're thinking, or this one book or podcast you listen to changed your perspective and your mindset, and just remembering to look backwards while you're going through the journey, because
True. True.
getting to the end goal is just most of us who have that drive to push things and build our own things and have those
Mhm.
goals, you're going to live in it for a very short period of time and move that goalpost further back and further back every time you get there. Like when I'm lifting, like, cool, I want to get to whatever 135 bench press. Awesome, I did that. Now it's cool. Like tomorrow, my new goal is 175 and 225, and it's like, yeah, every time you get there, no matter, it's like I'm gonna enjoy, I'm gonna soak this, I'm gonna steak dinner when I hit this weight or close this deal.
Right.
It's like cool, I do that and then immediately move on. Like just trying to enjoy things as they're happening because it
Hmm.
takes away from some of the stress and some of the chaos that's going on around you.
Facts, Zach, and the fact that you mentioned the whole, actually, doing it by yourself is hard, but once you do it with somebody else, to where you are failing, maybe you failed something, but when you switch that word to no, what can we learn from this, or instead of, man, Zach, you suck, I'm not gonna work with you no more. Hey, Zach, what about this situation? Could we have done better? I'll take the blame. I consider myself, maybe I was too soft on the seller, maybe I didn't ask the right questions, because it is a business at the end of the day, and so that's when you can have other people to, counterweight, just like the bar. You have to have enough weight on both sides, and not it's going to tilt over. So you can't be too nice, and you can't be too hard either. It's a game, but also learning from each other, and that's the beautiful part about the teamwork.
Yeah, you're when you're by yourself, you're always your own harshest critic. So when you
Yes.
go through things and things don't go well, you're like beating yourself up that you did something wrong or that something is inherently wrong with you. I know I
Mhm.
do that, but when you have a partner or somebody in a community, a friend, where you're like, hey, here's what happened on the deal, like this didn't go right. Like, why am I so bad at this, right? And they
Mhm.
listen, or you talk through it to them, and they're like, oh no, like this isn't you. This happens all the time, or this happened to me last week. And it's like, okay, I'm not. It's not me. It's just the situation. And like, and then they can go, all right, we can learn from it. Like I know when I was working with Caleb, we'd have something fall through, and we'd both debrief on it. Like, okay, what did we do wrong? What could we have done better? Like maybe it
Right.
was my fault. Maybe it was his fault. Maybe it was neither our fault. Like sometimes
Mhm.
it is what it is. But to be able to bounce that and have that check and balance with getting out of your own head and having a different perspective
Right.
is one of the main reasons that it's super helpful to have a team or a partner or just a friend that's doing the same thing you are and surrounding yourself with those other people as well.
Facts, that Zach, and I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, it's obviously it's enjoying the journey, it's enjoying the grid, and kind of being like the old phrase says, being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're in a pile of poopy. You're smiling like, hey, Zach, is a diamond in here. Let's go ahead. We still
Mm-hmm.
gotta look for it. Like, yeah, here it is. But you have to go through the struggle in order to get like the diamond. It's mentioned the diamond got to go through pressure in order to go from coal to being into a diamond over the years.
Yeah, yeah, and like fitness and working out has always been a big passion of mine. I've just always
Hmm.
done it. Right, I went right from sports.
Yeah.
Got into CrossFit in high school and kept that turned into my sport when other sports stopped. So and that's a competition within yourself, right? You get times for it, you get rounds for it, you get weights for it, whatever it is. So I've always had that, and like going through the hard workouts and like how you talk to yourself through that and how you get through it gives me some confidence when things do get hard outside of that. Like it gets me out of my comfort zone when it goes into real estate stuff or business things, like
Hmm.
uncomfortable situations. I'm at least a little used to it from doing workouts and pushing myself and kind of just making it better. So, I think it's one of those things like that's super important to just work through those, whether it is health and fitness or business or real estate. Like just working through those tough times, it's going to teach you to be a better person all around and help all other aspects of your life.
Man, loving it. So fitness, you take care of your fitness. You still have a 9 to 5, and you're still running. Well, not really a wholesale business. You're more, I guess. What is it? What are you doing right now in real estate?
Yeah, so I'm not wholesaling at all anymore. I shut that whole thing down.
Okay.
Probably 4 or 5 months ago. I think I closed my last wholesale deal in like April, and I've been focused purely on buy and holds.
Okay.
My operations managers run underwriting. We're looking creative deals nationwide.
Mhm.
We're trying to hone in on a specific market, but just trying to get volume of deals done, get him trained, get our systems up and
Mhm.
going. And then, yeah, we're looking at cash deals. I would love to be able to burr more deals
Mhm.
in the Southeast PA area. We're looking
Mhm.
in Raleigh area and the Indianapolis area. So I'm trying to focus on those three markets right now. Just kind of get a hold of those for cash and creative.
Okay. Got it. I'll try to remember that because I'm mainly down here in good old Houston, and I know Pace made fun of us of the Texas and the Florida market, being that our insurance and taxes have risen so much to where the creative deals are kind of hit or miss, and especially if it's a homestead, because
Yep.
obviously then that fluctuates after the homestead either expires or goes into the that one bracket that I don't know what the name is right now, but basically once it becomes a secondary, then it goes a little bit like, oh man, there goes my cash flow kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, we've found that is those two markets are hard. South Carolina's hard too because a lot of those once it
Mhm.
goes from like homeowners to out of state investor, it's like yeah, the taxes are like $300 more a month and like cash
Wow.
flow is gone. Like we look at long term rental as long as it's break even, we'll look at other exits. Like I love MTRs and I love pad splits, so it's like if we can
Mhm.
break even long term, cool. Let's look at other ones if we have other options. Let's nail those and try to get the cash flow up even higher.
Okay. I do have a, and speaking of past, but I do have a question because I am slowly, like say, enter putting people into the acquisition, like getting either a cold caller, or getting a lead manager, and obviously learning to be patient enough to know I had to ask those questions instead of giving those Pace Morby type of questions, like, come on, go ahead. Like just because they say they're interested in selling, you have to ask better questions. But kind of give it to them. But I was gonna ask, as far as right now, I do have a property that was handed to me. The seller doesn't want anything. She just wants to do away with the mortgage. She doesn't mind if we take it over.
Mhm.
But my question is, it may be simple. It's just simple as calling them. But if you're trying to figure out the rental restrictions, is it as simple as just calling the HOA and say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm thinking about moving in that area and I want to do a rental. What are your rental restrictions?"
Yeah, so each HOA should have CCRs, their covenant, I forget what all this, and restrictions. Covenant, something, and restrictions. But it's
Mhm.
just basically all of their rules. So
Okay.
within there, it should have what the rental restrictions are, if any. The other thing that you can look at is see if what is required for them to change a rule. Like some of them, it's like there's a board, and as long as the majority within the board
Hmm.
is like, yeah, let's change like where we don't let anything lower than 30 days happen.
Oh, okay.
That's a little more restrictive. But if it's like, hey, there's 100 houses in the community and we need majority, so 51 people of the homeowners
Hmm.
to pass a new rule, that's a little better because like how many people actually go to those meetings? Like if 20 people consistently show up, you're never going to get 51 people that vote on it, right? So like that
Makes
would be
sense.
a little bit better. So there should be CCRs that you can look at.
Hmm.
The seller should have them, but if not, I'm sure you can call the HOA and say, hey, looking to buy property in here. Like, can I see the CCRs of the property or
Gotcha.
your community? And then I don't know how long they usually are. I think they can vary, but it should tell you what the restrictions are.
Gotcha. But I love that you mentioned the CCR because when I do ask, now I'll sound a little more, confident or know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I need a CCRs for the neighborhood. I'm trying to think of what to do with this property I'm about to buy. And I was like, which one? Don't worry about that. Because I did run into one, and I don't know if that was too much information, but I was trying to help this one seller going through foreclosure.
Mm.
So obviously knowing that they were behind under HOA as well. So it's like, and I told them the exact address. Well, you don't have to worry about that until you pay it off. Like, whoa, bro, I just wanted to know the rules. That way, I was trying to figure out if we are going to spend this much. At least we can evaluate the cash on cash scenario if we do have to pay a lot more or learn how to negotiate that HOA lean down as well.
Right. Yep. And I looked it up. It's covenants, conditions, and restrictions is what it stands for.
Ooh, man, look at you. Resourceful, resourceful. Well, Zach, sounds good now, but I was curious, me being a dog lover and actually have my dog right next to me, I thought he was snoring pretty loud, but I don't know if you can hear him, but I was
No.
curious about that dog on your wall.
Yeah. So this is my last dog, my
Oh,
last and first dog. So I got her from the Philadelphia PSBCA.
okay,
It was in college. It was my sophomore going into my pre-junior. So
okay,
because we had 5 years, we had a pre-junior before our junior. So my second to third year. So me and a friend were bored one day, and we were just like, let's go like hang out with some dogs. We'll take them out for walks and like whatever. And
yeah,
so I saw her in there and like
uh,
fell in love immediately. She was like a year and a half old at that point.
yeah,
Got her talk to my parents because they were like, well, this is not going to be one of those situations where like you get a dog and it ends up being ours.
right,
So yeah, so I got her. I mean, they were basically like for better or for worse, basically giving her away.
right,
Like I donated some money to them and all that, the PSPCA. And I
hmm,
think technically we were in between houses, like from my sophomore to my pre-junior year. And I
right,
think the new house we were going to technically didn't allow dogs, but we are like, we'll just deal with that problem if it ever comes up. Like whenever
right.
the landlord had to come by, like to change the air filter,
Just
we were
hide
like,
on.
we'll just put her away. But yeah, so she passed suddenly in January 2020.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was a rough time for me. But yeah, so my parents got me that canvas a couple years ago. So
Wow, that's nice of them, man. Bro,
gosh, she got me through some times in college, man. Just having her there with me was the best. But yeah, me and my wife we got another dog probably 2 month or two after she passed, because it was like, you have a dog, right? So like when the dog's not there, like whether you come home early and the dog's not there to greet you, like say hi,
mhm.
it's like, man, like it was brutal to like miss that. So we
Man,
started looking, and we have a husky pit bull mix now, and she's the best.
nice, nice, bro. Yeah, Zach, I can relate with on that level. Having one, I think, and when I turned 12, I went to I guess, into the army, and then in my early 20s, that dog was still around. Even though, like you're saying, it was basically being overseas, I didn't
Mm,
get the chance to spend time with him. But obviously, like towards the end, I was like, wow, man, this dog, when is this dog gonna die? He's old. Normally, dogs last for about 10, 15, depending on the breed, of course.
mm,
And so I do remember, and hopefully I'll start tearing up, but I do remember towards the latter years of him getting older, you start seeing his poop just coming out because now he lost control of his
mm,
bowels like an older person. But remembering towards the end he had like some type of heart attack, and
mm.
so he was like a zombie, like kind of like in the Marvel, like a zombie dog, just come here, Blackie, nothing. But I remember the day we had to euthanize him, and like, hey, bro, yeah, we're gonna let him. We're gonna go to sleep. So spend some time with him. And for that moment, it seemed like he knew who he was. He turned
No.
around, started, like he started wagging his tail. I was like, wow, just his last moments. And
Mm.
I hugged him and said, all right, bro, thank you. And boom, so I can.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, like I was away that weekend, so she was actually at my parents' house. They were watching
Mhm.
her, and my parents had texted me on Sunday, and they were like, "Hey, she's like acting weird. Like I don't. She had like a dryer sheet, so maybe that's it. Like they're supposed to be poisonous, even though it was one that was used. Like whatever. So I was like, okay,
Right,
well, it's no big deal. Like I'll be home in a couple hours. I'll grab her. We'll go to the vet, and it'll be fine. And like when I got home and just saw how she was like so sluggish and all, I was like, this is not normal. And so
right.
it was Sunday night, and we went to sleep, and she was struggling. And then Monday morning I woke up and she was still way off, and I was like, we got to take her to the vet. Like something's not right. And
Right.
they were like, I think her spleen had ruptured or something like that.
Mhm.
Like like it was brutal.
Right.
I'm fortunate in the way that like she didn't get old, and I didn't have to. There was no decision to be made.
Right.
It was like there's no other options. Like you could, I guess, just let her go. She's just gonna suffer. So it was like,
Yeah.
you have to do this. And so I'm happy that it had to happen that way, because like having to make that decision and schedule an appointment and take her, like I don't know, man.
True.
I watched my parents have to do that. I watched my in-laws have to do that to their dog. Like I'm fortunate in that way. I wish I had more years with her, as usual,
Mhm.
right? You always want more, but
Right.
so I think it kind of just like puts everything into perspective when you kind of think back of those things. Like enjoy the time that you have with your pets, your
Everybody.
everybody. Just enjoy it, right? We talked
Right.
about enjoy the journey, right? Just enjoy it, right? Like nothing, not most things are not life and death. So just enjoy the process, right?
Mhm.
Things are gonna get screwed up. It's all gonna happen.
Right.
Just enjoy what you got around you.
Love it, love it. Well, appreciate you, like, say, sharing that, and like say that's the first thing I saw when I saw your pic. Like, what's up with that dog? And then thank you for sharing that. And then, like I say, it's being able to connect to that person in that aspect to where I can relate to you. And going back to real estate, it's like, bro, don't worry about foreclosure. I lost my property back in 2003.
Mm,
I was just like Zach. I bought my house real young, but I didn't know the things that I know now, and I left all those responsibilities to my parents.
mm,
And now they feel a type of guilt towards me. And they're like, "Oh man, we screwed over George's credit." And but luckily at that time they didn't use. I didn't use my VA loan at the time, so it was a conventional loan that I guess I went into foreclosure. So luckily years after I was able to use that one. But knowing, like I said, knowing if I knew now what I knew then, it is like this tape Pace Morby or Zach calling me, hey, excuse me, sir, I know your property's going, like, man, whatever. I'm gonna keep this property. I'm gonna tear everything up. I'm gonna take whatever I can. But now is knowing, to be able to relate to them in that sense, and same thing with the dogs. Like, oh, Zach, I can. I always forget which one, sympathize or empathize. Is I can relate to you because I've
Mhm.
been in that boat, and so yeah, man, let's just let's help each other out and get through this together, kind of thing. And so that's the beautiful part about all of this. And like you're saying, Zach, enjoying the journey and not taking it so seriously because we're here one day and the next day we could be gone. So just enjoy it.
Yeah,
Cool,
exactly.
cool. Man, Zach, well, thank you for having me bust a couple tears. Hopefully they
I know
won't.
you almost got me, man. I am not a crier by any means, but when it comes to the dogs, man, you got me close there for sure.
Oh man, oh man. Nah. But yeah, it is being able to like say, and I think it goes back to what we're talking about, the vulnerability. It's like, no, guys, this is not all sunshines and rainbows. It's hard. There are a couple of times I probably cried behind the scenes, like, telling my wife, "Hey, babe, I don't think I'm getting this. You think I should go back to work?" She's like, "F no, you keep doing it." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go
Yeah.
back." And getting cursed out by these sellers, and getting that callus, or like working out, getting stronger, getting stronger. Or like I love Goku. When during COVID, I remember I was at a party and one of my friends contracted COVID. So back then the process was, if you were at work and you knew somebody that had it, you had to take a certain time away from home, and so that time allowed me to watch Dragon Ball Z,
Mm,
and so that kind of relates to entrepreneurship of going for the next fight. Hey, want to fight? Who's next? And so
yeah.
it's like never giving up and going and going and going. Piccolo, all those characters. I can't remember
Mhm.
all of them, but I enjoyed those, and like being able to relate that with life and even entrepreneurship. Is like you don't have to know it all, but as you learn through failure, just figuring it out and getting better, and obviously connecting with different people, that makes it way easier.
Yep. Agree 100%.
Mhm. Cool, man. Well, thank you very much, Zach. Hopefully it wouldn't get too personal, and
No, it's perfect.
whoever whoever's watching this, hope that he got something out of you. And before I let you go, for people that may be in your region of the nation, what are the places you are currently buying now?
Yeah, so I'm Southeast PA outside of Philly, and then Raleigh area, Indianapolis area. Those are all cash, and then creative nationwide. So anything you get there, I'm looking for buy and holds, creative deals, cash deals in those areas. You can reach out to me on Facebook. It's just my name, Zach Busch, spelled like the beer, not like the president. And then my Instagram is on here too, but it's Zach Busch 924.
Got it, got it. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, Zach, for like coming through and letting me not only myself but hopefully anybody's watching get to know you a little bit better and reach out to you if they're in those areas and do business together. Like I don't know if it's exactly Pace that says that, but it's collaboration over competition.
100%. I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun.
Cool, cool, Zach. All right, and boom, we are done.